If you visit for the first time, then click the subscribe button and press bell icon so you get notification about every new video.
Welcome to BABS Compulsory English 1 Communication Skills, Course Code 1423. This is an audio component of the course which will help you to understand the core course components. There are dialogues, speeches, and descriptions which will not only help you understand but also will improve your listening and speaking skills. We hope that you will benefit. Course writer Farzana Ursani. Course coordinator Atiya Ejaz.
What's your name, sir?
Sorry?
Your name, please.
Oh, yes, Yasir Malik.
And your address. Where do you live?
45th Margala Road.
How old are you?
21.
Where is your driving license, sir?
I don't have it right now. Can I bring it to the police station later?
Certainly, sir. What make is this car?
It's a Toyota Corolla.
And what year it is?
2008.
Why were you driving so fast? You were actually overspeeding.
Well, really? I didn't realize that I was driving so fast.
I'm sorry, sir, but I'm going to give you a ticket for overspeeding. You have to learn to observe lane discipline. By lane discipline, I mean that you must always keep your lane, whether you are driving a car or a bicycle or walking. If you are driving, use indicators to show that which side you are turning to. Always use rear view and side mirrors while overtaking. Remember that overspeeding thrills but kills. Overspeeding is very dangerous because it can cause physical disability, will damage your vehicle, and of course can cause loss of life. So please observe traffic rules as they are for your own safety.
Recorded text 3. Listen carefully to Mustafa's directions that he is giving to Saud to reach the Agha's supermarket. As you listen, trace the route with the pencil and see if you can follow and understand Mustafa's directions.
Mustafa yaar, I've got to go to the Agha's superstore at Clifton. I really don't know how to reach there. Can you please help me find the place?
Well, of course, let me see. Okay, at the moment, we're at the Sin Rest House. Okay, first turn right towards Kakasha, go down towards Block 7, keep moving down until you reach a T junction of Uzma Arcade. Take the first right turn again, move a bit straight, and just behind Uzma Arcade is the Agha's Superstore. Did you understand?
Well, Mustafa, I guess so. Let me see if I can find it without much problem.
Unit 2. Seeking Confirmation. Recorded text 4. A high-ranking government officer has been shot dead outside his house in Islamabad. A newspaper reporter is asking the Superintendent Police some questions about the incident. Listen to their conversation.
SP Sahib, when was exactly Mr. Butt shot?
At 8:30 this morning,
Where did it happen?
outside his house, he was leaving for work. He turned round to say goodbye to his wife, and at that moment, he was fired upon.
What weapon was used?
An AK-47.
Was there anyone else in the street at the time?
Yes, there were a few witnesses.
So, you have a description of the assailant.
Yes, a fairly good description.
It's unbelievable. How can a man shoot someone in broad daylight in the center of Islamabad and get away with it?
Well, these criminals can do anything. The man who was wearing a grey shalwar kameez and a black shawl walked past the minister's house, took the gun from under his shawl, fired at the minister indiscriminately as soon as he came out of his house, and simply walked away. He didn't run. Those who saw the incident ran to help the minister. Nobody followed the man because he had a gun.
He just walked away?
Yes, I believe so.
Incredible.
Yes, it is, isn't it?
Do you suspect anyone or the motive behind the murder?
At the moment, we are unable to make any conclusions.
Recorded text 5. Listen to a conversation between Mr. and Mrs. Ilahi Bakhsh, who are about to go on a holiday.
Have you switched off the gas?
Yes, I've switched off the gas and I've switched off all the lights. I've unplugged everything in the kitchen.
What about the windows?
I've shut and locked all the windows. I've left a spare key with Mrs. Kareem next door. She'll check the house every day. Such a nice woman. Her husband has lost his job, you know. Now let me see, have I forgotten anything? I hope not.
I've put the suitcases in the car. Come on, let's go.
I hope I haven't forgotten anything.
Stop worrying now.
Recorded text 6. Listen to Mrs. Wasim giving a lecture on women's rights in Pakistani society. As you listen to the lecture, note down the introductory statement that she uses to introduce the topic of her lecture.
Women's rights in Pakistan is a big question often raised in the West. It is believed that women have no rights or privileges in the male-dominated society of Pakistan. Before I discuss whether women have rights in Pakistani society or not, I would first of all intend to explain the structure of the Pakistani society.
Recorded text 7. Continue listening to Mrs. Wasim's lecture. Notice how she is giving background information about women's rights in Islamic society.
As we all know that Pakistan is an Islamic state where people not only take pride in the Islamic value system but are ready to sacrifice for the sanctity of Islam. Islam does not impose any restrictions that may hamper the social growth and development of the woman. We all understand that a woman is an equal and important member of society, and you will remember that women have always played a vital role in building the Pakistani society on healthier and stronger foundations.
Recorded text 8. Listen once again to Mrs. Wasim's lecture. As you listen, concentrate on the two terms that she defines.
Women in Pakistan have been constantly complaining of being isolated from the mainstream of society. By mainstream of society, I mean a typical conventional society that conforms to certain value system and which has a majority following. Women feel disillusioned on being maltreated by the typical patriarchal setup in Pakistan. The term patriarchal is used to define a social system which is male-dominated.
Recorded text 9. Listen carefully to Mrs. Wasim's remaining part of the lecture and notice the words or sequence markers she uses.
That brings me to itemize the different roles women play in different provincial setups. As we have already seen that Pakistani women live in the most diversified tribal, feudal and urban environments. She can be a highly qualified and self-confident professional or a bold peasant toiling along with her menfolk. Firstly, in the areas like NWFP and Balochistan, life is governed and regulated by strict tribal beliefs. A woman has no say in any aspect of her life, including her marriage. Secondly, in the populated provinces of Sindh and Punjab, women's roles are dominated by the feudal system. But in all these setups, women strongly claim that the society usually adopts a hostile attitude towards them.
Recorded text 10. Listen to the last part of Mrs. Wasim's lecture.
However, their development in society is hindered due to many factors. For example, most of women in rural areas have to bear double burden of domestic and outside work. For instance, they are the first to rise and last to bed.
Basim, our course on business management is too theoretical. It should be more practical, don't you think so?
I could not agree with you more. I'm just doing the course to get my degree. I don't think that it's going to help me in practical life.
Exactly. And I can't understand most of the theories that are discussed. I just learn my notes by heart.
So do I. We should complain to the head of the department.
I think you're right, Basim. I suggest that we see him as soon as possible and request him to add some more practical aspect in it.
Kashif, I agree. But don't you think that we should also talk to other class fellows and ask their opinion as what they think about the course?
Good idea. Let's ask them tomorrow.
Absolutely.
Recorded text 12. Amir and Jahangir are talking about cricket. When you listen to their conversation, pay attention to how they are disagreeing with each other.
Oh, spectacular! It's Paul Collingwood.
Cricket, cricket, cricket. Wherever I go, people are talking about cricket.
Don't you like cricket?
No, I don't. I think it's such a boring game and an absolute waste of time.
I agree that it is slow, but it can't be boring.
Nonsense! It goes on for hours and nothing ever happens. Most of the players are either sitting in the pavilion or standing around in the field doing nothing.
Well, I certainly don't agree. I think it's a captivating game. Don't you like any other sport?
No, I think all games are a waste of time.
Recorded text 13. An interviewer is asking questions to the Director General of the Pakistan Environment Protection Agency. As you listen to the conversation, notice how on some points the DG agrees and on some other issues he disagrees.
Sir, being the DG of the Pakistan Environment Protection Agency, what would you like to say about the increasing environment degradation and desertification in the country?
Increasing environmental degradation in the country? This is an absolutely incorrect statement. But you're completely right that desertification is increasing. Desertification is like a cancer that's spreading around the world. And we in Pakistan are very conscious about this fact and are taking measures to ensure proper steps.
Sir, it is believed that the Pakistan Environment Protection Agency is doing nothing to safeguard our environment. How would you like to comment on this?
Rubbish. These are just rumors. We're doing everything in our power to safeguard our environment.
But sir, we hardly see any improvement in the environment conditions.
Oh, come on. You see changes everywhere. You need to have a sharp eye to notice the difference. We have taken steps for environmental planning, measures to curb pollution, preserve ecology, physical planning in human settlements, urban water supply, sewerage and drainage.
There is one common view about the agency that it has failed in the tree plantation targets. How would you like to comment on this?
You must be joking. Who has given you these false ideas? Let me put the facts straight. Tree planting campaigns are launched every year at the national level during spring and monsoon seasons. We involve all the government departments, private organizations and NGOs during planting season, and the achievements made are tremendous. Yes, there is some truth in the fact that at times the target of forestation is not what we predict.
One last question, sir, and I hope you will agree with me that drought still prevails in some parts of the country.
Absolutely. Desertification has become the greatest threat to humanity. It's a global phenomenon and we have taken measures to reduce and reverse the effect of drought and other forms of land degradation.
Recorded text 14. Listen to the conversation between two friends, Sobia and Hina. Hina is agreeing with everything Sobia says. When you will listen to the conversation, you would notice that there are long pauses. During the pauses, write your own expressions of agreement, then wait and soon you will hear the appropriate expressions.
That's four.
Isn't it fun to watch TV these days? So many channels and such a variety of interesting programs. Yes, you are absolutely right. I also like to watch TV these days. So many interesting programs. You must have noticed they are now discussing all kinds of topics in talk shows that we never ever imagined will be discussed so openly and publicly. Yes, I couldn't agree with you more. I think it is good because people should know the realities of life and learn how to handle them.
Recorded text 15. Listen to the conversation between two friends, Sobia and Hina again. But this time, Hina is disagreeing with Sobia. When you will listen to the conversation, you would notice that there are long pauses. During the pauses, write your own expressions of disagreement, then wait and soon you will hear the appropriate expressions.
Isn't it fun to watch TV these days? So many channels and such a variety of interesting programs. Well, I don't agree with you at all. These channels have rather confused the audiences. We now don't know what to watch and what to enjoy. There is quantity definitely, but there's no quality.
You must have noticed they are now discussing all kinds of topics in talk shows that we never ever imagined will be discussed so openly and publicly.
I'm afraid I don't agree with you at all. Certain topics should not be discussed so openly. We need to be discreet about certain matters concerning our lives. I think if we discuss such issues explicitly, our young generation will become too bold.
Recorded text 16. Listen and try to understand the news in English.
Assalamu alaikum. First, the headlines. The Standing Committee of Senate on Foreign Affairs demanded the governments of Pakistan and India to release prisoners of each other's countries unconditionally. Secretary Foreign Affairs briefed the Senate's Standing Committee on Foreign Affairs over the issue of Pakistani prisoners in Indian jail. He said prisoners' release could be a very important step towards confidence-building measures between the two countries. The meeting, presided over by the Chairman Senate, demanded that the Indian government should allow Pakistani consular to meet Pakistani prisoners in Indian jails. Foreign secretaries of both the countries would meet next week in Islamabad over prisoners' release issue and then in New Delhi on August 28.
Recorded text 17. Now listen to the sports news.
And now cricket. At Hamilton, New Zealand were in lead by 104 runs with 10 wickets remaining in the first test against Pakistan. Pakistan is already all out for 463 runs. Moin Khan steered Pakistan to safety after scoring 137 runs by hitting 20 fours and 2 sixers. He was LBW by Uram. Skipper Inzamamul Haq scored 51 runs and Abdul Razak 48.
Recorded text 18. Listen to the weather update.
It's the weather report now. Dry weather is likely to prevail in most part of the country during the next 24 hours. Islamabad will be partly cloudy. Karachi will remain dry but windy, and Lahore is going to be mixed, cloudy, with some sunshine. Murree is going to experience a chilly weather. Peshawar will have fog. For Quetta, the forecast is that it is going to be freezing. Muzaffarabad's frosty. Both Multan and Hyderabad will be dry and Gilgit frosty.
Unit 4. Expressing possibility and impossibility. Recorded text 19. Listen to Mr. Hussain, a politician, talking about possible solutions to the Kashmir issue.
There are many possibilities under consideration that can help solve the long-standing disputes between India and Pakistan over Kashmir. At the same time, it somehow appears impossible that these options may be accepted by everyone. There are many possible and workable solutions. We are very hopeful that we may probably reach to a consensus on many issues. However, there are uncertainties too, because it is not possible to convince everybody on each and every issue, and there might be some disagreements. Let me discuss some possibilities and impossibilities involved in this dispute. Possibility 1 is international border. One option or possibility is to turn the line of control between Indian and Pakistani Kashmir into an international border. However, Such a plan would be impossible and unacceptable both to Pakistan and to many Kashmiris living on either side of the line of control. Now, possibility 2, that is, let Kashmiris choose. Another possibility would be a plebiscite which would give Kashmiris the choice of either Indian or Pakistani rule. But again, this is not possible as some circles would oppose it. And possibility 3 is independence. A formula for independence to be overseen by a UN committee may be quite possible. It can be possible only if representatives from a wide variety of countries may oversee a phased withdrawal of troops by both countries. But again, within Kashmir, this might not be a possible solution as plebiscite leading to independence would not be welcomed by all. And lastly, possibility 4, that is religious segregation. A lot of people have suggested another option, and that is to redraw the boundaries of Kashmir on religious lines. This would mean that most of the Muslim-dominated areas of Indian Kashmir could go to Pakistan, and the Hindu-dominated areas would remain with India. I think this is not a possible solution as thousands of people will be uprooted as a result of such a partition.
Recorded text 20. Sana and her friend Sophia are very sensitive girls. They feel very strongly about issues that concern us and our country. Listen to how they are expressing their views about measures that our government can take to improve the living standard of the people.
Sophia, I wish our government should do something about the health of its citizens.
Such as?
Well, to begin with, why don't they make healthcare free of cost? Don't you think it is possible?
Of course it is possible, Sana. Everything is possible if there is a will to improve. Look at the pathetic conditions in our government hospitals. There are no doctors, no medicines, no beds, nothing.
Why don't they do something about it? It's not such an impossible task. I wish I can do something.
I really don't understand, Sana. Why the government is not taking these issues seriously? Why does it find it impossible to address these significant matters?
There are solutions to all problems. All they need are determined efforts to make impossible possible.
Recorded text 21. Dr. Sabiha Shah is an environmental activist. Let us listen to who she has to blame for the environmental degradation.
Environmental degradation is threatening the world. There are many factors responsible for environmental degradation. The first and the most crucial threat to environment is the population growth. The population of the world is increasing. As this happens, the cities grow, and with this growth, the natural land is being turned into homes and office buildings. As we build these homes and cities, we are using more and more lumber and other natural resources, which again rob the Earth's natural resources. This overcrowding leads to pollution, which in turn causes natural disasters such as water pollution, air and land pollution, deforestation, climate change, and ozone depletion. It is therefore extremely important to arrest the population growth, otherwise it will be impossible to achieve our goal of environment preservation.
Recorded text 22. Dr. Hassan has a patient Saeed who is a chronic smoker. Let us listen to the conversation between Dr. Hassan and his patient Saeed, who is a chronic smoker, and notice how Dr. Hassan advises Saeed to quit smoking.
Now, Saeed, I see that you smoke rather heavily.
Yes, I am afraid I do smoke too much.
Well, my advice to you is that you should stop smoking at once, or you will damage your lungs and might end up with a heart disease. Have you ever tried giving up?
Yes, several times, but I just find it too difficult.
Well, in that case, let me give you some simple suggestions. If you smoke strong cigarettes, you should change to milder ones.
Okay.
And you should also try and reduce the number of cigarettes you smoke each day. You shouldn't smoke the whole cigarette, but put out the cigarette after you have smoked half of it. Is that clear?
I will try, doctor, although it may be difficult.
You must also get a nicotine gum from a medical store, and whenever you feel an urge to smoke, just start chewing that gum.
Recorded text 23. Gulfaraz has just returned home from a long trip. He is talking to his wife Amna. Listen to their conversation and notice how Amna gives her husband advice.
I feel absolutely exhausted.
You should get some rest. Why don't you lie down for some time?
I haven't eaten anything for 24 hours.
You must have a decent meal first. I'll get you some hot rotis and vegetables at once.
I haven't had a bath for 2 days.
You ought to have one right now. Meanwhile, I'll get the food ready.
I also feel a bit sick. I guess I have a sore throat.
Oh dear, I think you should start taking medicines.
But I want to attend Hashu's dinner tonight.
You must be joking. All you need is a quiet evening and a good rest. You have to relax.
But I promised him I would come.
Well, if I were you, I would call him and excuse myself. I don't think I'll let you go out tonight.
Recorded text 24. You are going to listen to Dr. Abdul Hafiz talking to a group of students. Listen to the advice he gives to his students regarding exam preparation.
In any educational system, we cannot avoid examinations. All students ought to appear for exams. Here are some of the techniques that good students should use in order to succeed. First, good students should never accept anything in class that they do not understand. They must not be afraid to ask questions. Second, good students ought to know how to take good notes. Their notes should be brief and to the point. Third, good students need to work gradually throughout the year. They must not leave the work to the last weeks before the exam. They should prepare calmly and thoroughly for each weekly or monthly test. Fourth, good students need to regularly work towards achieving high results in their exams. They must get hold of previous exam papers and work through them. Finally, good students must organize and manage their time well. Before examination, they should prepare a realistic revision program and stick to it.
Unit 5. Expressing certainty and uncertainty. Expressing obligation. Recorded text 25. You are going to listen to an interview of the finance minister who is answering questions about the current budget. As you listen to his interview, notice how he is expressing certainty.
Mr. Minister, how would you like to comment? on this year's budget?
Well, of course, I have all the positive comments to make. And I'll say this with certainty that overall this budget is positive, export-oriented, and business-friendly. And I'm absolutely sure that this budget has been welcomed by all the communities, especially the business community.
Can you highlight some of the prominent features of the budget?
It's definitely a people-friendly budget that will surely give a boost to the national economy. It's certainly very good from the agricultural point of view, and it's definitely good for the textile industry. This year's budget clearly indicates a cut in taxes, so I say with confidence that we'll for sure achieve a targeted GDP growth of 6 to 8%.
Recorded text 26. You are going to listen to an ordinary citizen, Ali Ahmed, giving his comments on the budget. Notice his tone and the way he is expressing uncertainty.
Around a third of Pakistan's 150 million people still live in poverty, and the middle and poorer classes have been hit by accelerating inflation. I doubt this budget is addressing these two basic issues, poverty and inflation. The budget contains incentives for the rich, for the business class. But I would be surprised if there is much for the common man. I don't suppose that this budget is going to bring any relief for an ordinary Pakistani citizen. There is no way that the middle and poorer classes will ever live comfortably. I don't think there is anything beneficial for poor. It's unlikely that there is reduction in transport fares and cheaper availability of household items. It is all for the benefit of the rich. As a result, the poor will become poorer and the affluent more affluent.
Recorded text 27. You are going to listen to Dr. Haider's lecture in which he is telling his students about the responsibilities or obligations of a good citizen. Since it is a question and answer sort of a lecture, you have to listen to it carefully, perhaps more than once. Sir, what is citizenship?
Citizenship means being a citizen or a member of a group. When you are a part of a group, you have certain rights and responsibilities.
What is a right?
A right is something you're allowed to have. The right to vote means when a citizen turns 18, he or she is allowed to vote.
Then, sir, what is responsibility?
Responsibilities are things people have to do. A responsibility of a citizen would be to obey the law. People who don't obey the law are not only hurting themselves, but others too. When people break the law, they get into trouble. Our government makes rules to make it easier for us all to live together. We call these rules laws. Parents make rules to keep you safe from dangerous people or places. Police officers' responsibility or duty is to make sure people don't break laws and live safely. Teachers and principals make rules, and it is the responsibility of students to follow these rules. If there weren't any rules at school, how could anyone get their education? Our families and schools make rules to help keep us safe. Rules are made for a reason. Then, of course, there are responsibilities for everyone, everywhere. And these responsibilities are being polite, being fair, telling the truth, or doing something when you say you will.
Recorded text 28. Dr. Shehbaz is a career counselor who is giving important directions to a group of potential candidates getting ready to appear in a job interview at a multinational organization. Listen to the guidelines he's giving them.
You need to prepare for the job interview appropriately in order to convey a positive and polished image. This is your first job interview, and you need to consider these 3 steps in order to prepare yourself for the interview. Step 1 is to know yourself. Think about your skills and interests, consider your strengths and weaknesses, and identify accomplishments that you are proud of so that you are able to communicate all these in the job interview. Step 2 is to know the employer. You should do some basic research about the working of the firm or the organization and the position it is offering, as well as know the salary range.
Recorded text 29. Let's listen to how Dr. Shehbaz explains non-verbal skills.
Non-verbal communication skills mean messages that we convey through our facial expressions, posture, eye movements, and gestures. When you go for an interview, remember that positive non-verbal communication will reinforce your verbal message. Therefore, greet the interviewer appropriately, maybe with a firm handshake. Maintain eye contact with the interviewer. Use positive vocal qualities and facial expressions. Sit straight and listen attentively because these demonstrate your interest and enthusiasm. Also, you must consider interview etiquette, and these are: arrive on time, introduce yourself. Don't call the interviewer by his/her first name. Do not ask about salary and benefits until the employer brings up the subject.
Recorded text 30. Waqar Hussain has applied for a job as a project manager at the Sarhad Rural Development Agency. Mr. Asfandyar Khan is interviewing him. Let's listen to a part of the interview.
So, Mr. Waqar, tell me about yourself.
Sir, I have done my Masters in Development Studies in 2006 and have an experience of working as a social organizer with the Khushali Bank for 2 years.
Why did you decide to seek a position with this organization?
I am always looking for challenging job opportunities that can give me the chance to work at grassroots level, especially for the poor community.
What do you know about our organization?
I know that Sarhad Rural Support Program is doing a great deal in poverty reduction and promoting sustainable means of livelihood in rural NWFP.
What are your long-term career goals?
I want to grow as a development specialist who can form practical strategies that would encourage people to take control of their lives, help themselves by undertaking income-generating activities, and indulge in community participation.
Thank you, Mr. Hussain. We'll let you know the decision in a week's time.
Thank you, sir, for giving me the opportunity.
Unit 6. Expressing Preference and Intention. Recorded text 31. Hamad is a 17-year-old young man. He has certain preferences of his own. Let us listen to what he has to say about things he prefers.
What do I like? Good question. I wish I knew too. Well, I prefer reading books than watching films, which a lot of teenagers prefer these days. I also prefer spending time with a couple of good friends rather than hanging out in the markets. I love to eat good food, preferably Italian and Chinese. I'd rather not go for shopping as I prefer my mom to buy things for me. I trust her choice. And oh yes, I prefer going to sleep late and waking up late too. I'm rather a sporty person, and I prefer watching wrestling on TV than cricket. And I also go for taekwondo that I prefer over other gymnastics.
Recorded text 32. Rabia Saeed is an information technology IT expert. She expresses her views about opportunities for Pakistani women in IT sector. Let us listen to what she is saying.
Information technology, IT, is a popular career choice for Pakistani women. A large number of educated Pakistani girls prefer taking up IT as a profession. Why this preference for IT? Well, a recent survey has proved that women have shown a great preference to IT because it provides them with enormous opportunities to prove their creativity. Women opt for IT profession because they think it not only provides them big financial benefits, but also allows them to be a part of a dynamic and fast-paced corporate world. They have made a choice in favor of IT because they think that this can be the best profession for their personal and professional development.
Recorded text 33. Mr. Alayar Laghari is on an official tour to Karachi. He asked the travel agent's advice. Listen to the advice the travel agent gives him.
I suggest, Mr. Laghari, that you may fly by either PIA or AirBlue. Both airlines offer some sort of fares. I also advise you to choose the Avari Towers to stay in. It's preferable because it's just 20 minutes from the airport. Moreover, a lot of visitors prefer to stay there because it is situated amidst the business and commercial areas of Karachi, near major cultural attractions and within a walking distance of shopping and commercial markets. You might favor it for security reasons too, because it offers a safe and secure environment. I think another reason you might like it better is that it offers reasonable rates as compared to other hotels in Karachi.
Recorded text 34. Mr. and Mrs. Sabir Shah are in America for a visit. They are at a place where a lady is explaining details about the flight. Listen to what important details or announcements she is making.
Hello and good evening. Passengers of flight American Airlines AA417 bound for New York will have brief stops in Atlanta and Miami. The departure gate has been changed to 30B. Also, there will be a slight departure delay due to inclement weather outside. The ground crew is in the process of de-icing the wings in preparation for departure. It also looks like the flight is slightly overbooked, so we are offering complimentary round-trip tickets to a few passengers willing to take a later flight. We should be boarding at about 8:45 p.m. Thank you for your patience.
Recorded text 35. Now Mr. and Mrs. Sabir Shah are on board. They are traveling to Seattle, a city in America. Listen to the announcements from the captain.
Hello everyone, this is the captain speaking. I want to welcome you on board on a flight 18 bound for Seattle. Our flight time today is 2 hours and 14 minutes and we will be flying at an average altitude of 29,000 feet. The local time in Seattle is 11:45 and the weather is sunny, but there is a chance of rain later in the day. We will be arriving at gate 13 and we will be announcing connecting flights on our approach to the Seattle airport. On behalf of Sky Airlines and the crew, I want to wish you an enjoyable stay in Seattle. Sit back and enjoy the flight.
Unit 7. Asking permission. Giving and refusing permission. Recorded text 36. Let us listen to a conversation between Ahmed and someone he meets in a waiting room in a hospital. As you listen to the short dialogue, notice how Ahmed asks for permission and how the stranger first gives him the permission and then refuses him the permission.
Excuse me, sir. Do you mind if I sit here?
Not at all. Please sit down.
Thank you, sir. Do you mind if I smoke?
Well, actually, I would rather. You didn't. It's a hospital. And no smoking area.
Oh, that's right.
Recorded text 37. Let us listen to a conversation between Mr. Wasim, who is a tenant, and Mr. Akram, who is the owner of the house.
Akram Sahab, I need a favor. Do you mind if I use your car porch to park my car? I've bought a small Suzuki Mehran and want to park it in your porch.
Well, that's fine with me, but there's a problem.
Really? What's the problem?
You see, my son has also bought a car a week ago, and now we have 2 cars. I don't think the porch is big enough to fit in 3 cars. Otherwise, I would never say no to you.
Oh, yes, I see what you mean. That's okay. But would it be all right if you can build a makeshift porch at the back of the house so that I can park my car there?
No, I'm afraid it's not possible. The municipal authorities would not allow it.
Oh, well, then let me think of some other solution.
Recorded text 38. In this section, you will listen to a speech by Ms. Shireen Ebadi, an Iranian academic who has won the Nobel Prize in 2003. Listen to the speech what she delivered in Oslo, Norway, when she received the Nobel Prize.
In the name of the God of creation and wisdom, Your Majesty, Your Royal Highnesses, honorable members of the Norwegian Nobel Committee, Excellencies, ladies and gentlemen, I feel extremely honored that today my voice is reaching the people of the world from this distinguished venue. This great honor has been bestowed upon me by the Norwegian Nobel Committee, and I salute the spirit of Alfred Nobel. This year, the Nobel Peace Prize has been awarded to a woman from Iran, a Muslim country in the Middle East. Undoubtedly, my selection will be an inspiration to the masses of women who are striving to realize their rights, not only in Iran, but throughout the region. My selection as a Nobel Prize winner will make women in Iran and women from all over the world believe in themselves. Honorable members of the Norwegian Nobel Committee, women constitute half of the population of every country. To disregard women and bar them from active participation in political, social, economic, and cultural life would in fact be equivalent to depriving half the population of every society of its capability and participation. The patriarchal culture and the discrimination against women cannot continue forever. Ladies and gentlemen, allow me to say a little about my country, my region, my culture, and my faith. I am an Iranian. I am a Muslim. In the Quran, the Prophet of Islam has been cited as saying, "Thou shalt believe in thine faith and I in my religion. That same divine book sees the mission of all prophets as that of inviting all human beings to uphold justice. Since the advent of Islam, Iran's civilization and culture has become infused with humanitarianism, respect for the life, belief and faith of others, propagation of tolerance and avoidance of violence, bloodshed, and war. The luminaries of Iranian literature, in particular our Hafiz, Rumi and Sa'di, Nasir Khosrow, are all emissaries of this humanitarian culture. Their message manifests itself in this poem by Sa'di. The sons of Adam are limbs of one another, having been created of one essence. When the calamity of time afflicts one limb, the other limbs cannot remain at rest. Islam is a religion whose first sermon to the Prophet begins with the word, recite. The Quran's sermon and message cannot be in conflict with awareness, knowledge, wisdom, freedom of opinion and expression, and cultural pluralism. The discriminatory civil, social, political, and cultural plight of women in Islamic states has its roots in the patriarchal and male-dominated cultural traditions prevailing in these societies and not in Islam. These cultural traditions do not tolerate freedom and democracy and does not believe in the equal rights of men and women and the liberation of women from male domination because it would threaten the historical and traditional position of the rulers and guardians of that culture. The decision by the Nobel Peace Committee to award the 2003 prize to me as the first Iranian and the first woman from a Muslim country inspires me and millions of Iranians and nationals of Islamic states with the hope that our efforts, endeavors, and struggles toward the realization of human rights and the establishment of democracy in our respective countries enjoy the support, backing, and solidarity of international civil society. This prize belongs to the people of Iran. It belongs to the people of the Islamic states for establishing human rights and democracy. Ladies and gentlemen, human rights are a guarantor of freedom, justice, and peace. If human rights fail to be manifested, a human being will be stripped of all the dignity. A human being will be gripped by starvation. A human being will be beaten by famine, war, and illness. And a humiliated human being and a plundered human being will not be in any position or state to recover the rights he or she has lost. If the 21st century wishes to free itself from the cycle of violence, acts of terror and war, there is no other way except by understanding and putting into practice human rights for all mankind, irrespective of race, gender, faith, nationality, or social status. With much gratitude, thank you, ladies and gentlemen.
Unit 8. Expressing Appreciation and Gratitude. Recorded text 39. Listen to a conversation between a mother and her son Saad. Notice how the mother is expressing her appreciation.
Really, Saad, you've made me so happy today. You have cleaned all the mess in your room and have also switched off all the lights before leaving for school.
Well, Ammi, it's my pleasure. I suddenly realized you do so much work, and I should help you a little. And of course, switching off unnecessary lights will save energy and reduce our electricity bills.
Well, thank you. I really appreciate your help.
Recorded text 40. Mr. and Mrs. Rahman stayed for the weekend at their friends Mr. and Mrs. Ahmed's house in Murray. Listen to the conversation and notice how these people are expressing their appreciation and gratitude. Thanks for your hospitality. We have enjoyed every moment of your stay with you. Please don't mention it. It's a pleasure to have both of you here.
And thank you for your nice gifts. I really appreciate your thoughtfulness.
Not at all. After all, what are friends for? And it's such a joy to spend time together.
Recorded text 41. Listen to a dialogue in which two friends are appreciating yet another aspect or feature of nature and God's many gifts to the humanity.
Oh, Sabah, you have so many pets in the house. Your house is like a mini zoo.
I love animals. They are my friends. I just want to take care of them, feed them, play with them. Believe me, Hina, they can be people's great friends.
Well, really, you're right, Sabah. They are so cute and simple and do not demand anything. Don't you think so?
Of course, Hina. Pets are fun, and animals are one of the God's greatest gifts to the mankind.
Recorded text 42. Listen to a description of Lal Shehbaz Qalandar's Urs at Sehwan Sharif and then do some listening exercises based on it. Dr. Amanullah Memon, who is an anthropologist, is giving us interesting descriptions of Sehwan and the Urs of the Sufi saint Qalandar Lal Shehbaz. So get ready and listen very carefully.
Sehwan Sharif is probably the oldest town in Sindh. Sehwan was the capital of Buddhist ruler who was brother of Chandragupta II. The town is also famous for its glazed pottery, but it is best known for the shrine of Hazrat Lal Shehbaz Qalandar. The saint was born in Marwind, now Afghanistan, in the year 1177 in a noble Makhdoom family. Lal Shehbaz Qalandar's real name was Sayyid Muhammad Usman. He showed signs of deep spirituality even when he was still an infant. At the age of 7, he knew Quran by heart, and at 20, he was initiated into the Qalandariya order of Darweshes. Lal Shehbaz Qalandar is a Sufi, a missionary, a scholar, a poet, and the writer of several books in Persian and Arabic. His elegant tomb is in Sehwan Sharif, is said to have initially been constructed in 1356 and completed in 1693. Its architecture is in the style of 13th and 14th centuries. The shrine dazzles the eye with its Sindh Kashi tiles, mirrorwork, and 2 gold-plated doors, one donated by the late Shah of Iran, the other by the late Prime Minister Zulfikar Ali Bhutto. The inner chamber is about 100 square yards with the silver canopied grave in the middle. The annual Urs or festival of Hazrat Lal Shehbaz Qalandar begins on the 18th of Shaban, and devotees from all over the country comes to attend this event. On each morning of the 3-day feast, the narrow lanes of Sehwan are packed to capacity as thousands of pilgrims, fakirs, and devotees make their way to the shrine to offer their tributes and make a wish. Most of the people present garlands and a green chadar with Quranic inscriptions in silver or gold threads, humming of verses, singing and dancing in praise of the saint continues till late at night. A devotional dance known as dhamal is also one of the many attractions that is performed at the rhythmic beat of the dhol. The dervishes, clad in long robes, beads, bracelets, and colored headbands, whirl faster and faster in a hypnotic trance.
Unit 9. Giving advice and suggestions. Recorded text 43. Listen to the following two short dialogues and notice how people are giving advice in the first dialogue and suggestions in the second dialogue.
I have to go on a long journey tomorrow, and I haven't yet finished packing.
You ought to hurry up and then get some sleep.
Let's go to the cricket match together.
Sure, that sounds great. What time?
About 10. I'll pick you up.
Recorded text 44. Dr. Saqib is giving some valuable advice and suggestions to people who smoke heavily and want to quit. Listen to what Dr. Saqib is telling us, and while you listen, note down the advice and suggestions that he gives.
If you have tried to quit smoking and failed, don't worry, because most smokers fail several times before quitting successfully. The first thing you should do is that you must set a quit smoking deadline, and I suggest that you should stick to that deadline. Why don't you tell your family, friends, and co-workers that you are going to quit and that you want their support? How about asking them not to smoke around you? Another thing I would strongly recommend is that you better change your environment. That is, you ought to get rid of all cigarettes and ashtrays in your home, car, and place of work. How about distracting yourself from the craving to smoke by changing your routine? And may I propose that you must do different things that will occupy your mind and divert your attention from smoking. I know that since you are addicted to smoking, you might feel stressed out, and my suggestion would be to do some physical exercise, drink a lot of water and other fluids. How about reading books? Adopting a hobby? If I were in your position, I would plan something enjoyable to do every day. Talk to someone, go for a walk, or get busy with a task. Remember that once you quit, don't smoke. Not even a puff. My mission here is to restore your faith in yourself. You can quit. Even if you failed several times in the past, understand that this is normal. You're not alone.
In a mud hut, far from town, lived an old grass cutter named Walidad. Every morning, Walidad would cut and bundle tall, wild grass and sold it as fodder in the marketplace and earned 30 paisa. He spent 10 paisas for food, 10 for clothes, and saved 10 in a clay pot under his bed. In this manner, Walida lived happily for many years. The next day, Walidad loaded the money into a sack and carried it to a jeweler in the marketplace. He exchanged all his coins for a lovely gold bracelet. Then Walidad went to the home of a merchant.
Your friend must accept a gift in return. My servants will load a camel with the finest silks.
What could I do with 12 horses?
But after a moment, Walidad said,
I know who should have such a gift. I beg you, keep 2 horses for yourself and take the rest to the Queen of Kahistan.
The merchant thought this was very hilarious, but he consented. On his next visit to the queen's palace, he gave her the horses. Now the queen was a bit confused. She whispered to her prime minister,
Why does this Walidad persist in sending gifts? I have never even heard of him.
The prime minister said, Why don't you discourage him? Send him a gift so rich he can never hope to match it. So in return for the 10 horses from Walidad, the queen sent back 20 mules loaded with silver. The merchant was very perplexed, and he arrived back at the hut. Walidad groaned.
What I have done to deserve this? Friend, spare an old man. Keep 2 mules and their silver for yourself, and take the rest to the king of Nekabad.
The merchant was getting uneasy, but he could not refuse such a generous offer. So, after a few days, the merchant presented the silver-laden mules to the king of Nekabad. The king, too, was puzzled and asked his prime minister for advice. Perhaps this Walidad wants to prove himself better than you, said the prime minister. Why not send him a gift he can never beat? So the king sent back 20 camels with golden anklets, 20 horses with golden bridles and stirrups, 20 elephants with golden seats mounted on their backs, and 20 servants to care for all of them. The merchant was getting more and more amazed. He brought the animals to Walidad's hut. The grass cutter was beside himself.
Will bad fortune never end? Please keep yourself 2 or each animal, and take the rest to the Queen of Kahistan.
How can I go to her again? Protested the bewildered merchant. But Walidad pleaded so hard, the merchant consented to go just once more. This time, the queen was stunned by the magnificence of Walidad's gift. She turned again to her prime minister. Clearly, said the prime minister, the man wishes to marry you. Since his gifts are so fine, perhaps you should meet him. So the queen ordered a great caravan made ready, with countless horses, camels, and elephants, with the trembling merchant as guide. She and her court set out to visit the great Walidad. On the 3rd day, the caravan made camp, and the queen sent the merchant ahead to tell Walidad of her coming. When Walidad heard the merchant's news, his head sank to his hands.
Oh no!
He moaned.
Now I will be paid for all my foolishness. I have brought shame on myself and on the queen. What are we to do?
I fear we can do nothing, said the already stunned merchant, and he headed back to the caravan. The next morning, Walidad rose before dawn.
Goodbye, old hut,
he said.
I will never see you again.
The old grass cutter started down the road, but he had not gone far when he heard a voice.
Where are you going, Walidad?
He turned and saw 2 radiant ladies. He knew at once they were paris from paradise. Walidad sank to his knee and cried,
I am a stupid old man. Let me go my way. I cannot face my shame.
No shame can come to a man like you.
said one of the peri.
Though your clothes are poor, in your heart you are a king.
The peri touched him on the shoulder. To his amazement, he saw his rags turn to fine cloths. A jewelled turban sat on his head. The rusty sickle at his waist was now a gleaming sword.
Return, Walidad,
said the peri.
You look as good as any king.
Walidad looked behind him, where his hut had stood. A splendid palace sparkled in the rising sun. In shock, he turned to the peris, but they had vanished. Walidad hurried back along the road. As he entered the palace, the guards gave a salute. Servants bowed to him, then rushed here and there, preparing for the visitor. Walidad wandered through countless rooms, gaping at riches beyond his imagination. Suddenly, 3 servants ran up. A caravan from the east, announced the first. No, said the second, a caravan from the west. No, said the third, caravan from both east and west. The bewildered Walidad rushed outside to see 2 caravans halt before the palace. Coming from the east was a queen in a jewelled palanquin. Coming from the west was a king on a fine horse. Walidad hurried to the queen.
My dear Walidad, we meet at last,
said the queen of Khastan.
But who is that magnificent king?
I believe it is the king of Nekabad, your majesty,
said Walidad.
Please excuse me for a moment.
He rushed over to the king. My dear Walidad, I had to meet the giver of such fine gifts, said the king of Nekabad. But who is that splendid queen?
The queen of Kahistan, your majesty,
said Walidad with a smile.
Please come and meet her.
And so the king of Nekabad met the queen of Khastan, and the two fell instantly in love. A few days later their marriage took place in the palace of Walidad, and the celebration went on for many days. At last, Walidad had said goodbye to all his guests. The very next morning he rose before dawn, crept quietly from the palace, and started down the road. But he had not gone far when he heard a voice.
Where are you going, Walidad?
He turned and saw the 2 paris. Again he sank to his knees.
Did I not tell you I am a stupid old man? I should be glad for what I have received. But
say no more,
said the peri.
You shall have your heart's desire.
And she touched him again. So Walidad became once more a grass cutter, living happily in his hut for the rest of his days. And though he often thought warmly of his friends, the king and queen, he was careful never to send them gifts.
Here we come to the end of this program, and we expect you will also try to communicate with your friends and colleagues. Students and listeners, we also welcome your comments and feedback on these programs on the address Director, Institute of Educational Technology, Block number 22, Allama Iqbal Open University, Islamabad. Recording engineers Ghulam Mustafa Malik, Dilpazir Khan, Editor Umar Qureshi, Producer Munir Malik.
If you visit for the first time, then click the subscribe button and press bell icon so you get notification about every new video.